The stars twisted and bent as 12,000 massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The vessels were dark metal giants, each one bigger than Earth's largest cities. They moved through space like hungry sharks, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet in the distance. His forearms crossed over his chest as he studied the readings on his screens. The planet looked peaceful and quiet. His intelligence officers had told him this world held primitive creatures who barely knew how to fly between planets. Such a small world, Vextar said to his second-in-command. These humans will surrender quickly when they see our fleet. Every species does. On Earth, Dr. Richard Blake was having his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He ran to his office at the Global Defense Initiative, where dozens of people were staring at computer screens with shocked faces. The numbers on the displays made no sense at first. 12,000 ships, each one massive, all heading toward Earth. "Sir, we need to call the president," said his assistant, Carol Murphy. Her hands were shaking as she handed him the phone. President Helen Carter was in a meeting about trade policies when the call came. She listened to Dr. Blake's report with a calm face, but inside she felt ice-cold fear. She had hoped this day would never come, but she had always known it might. "Call the emergency meeting," she told her staff. "Get every world leader on the line now." Lieutenant Colonel Jake Morrison was drinking his second cup of coffee at the lunar defense platform when his radar operator called out. Jake looked through the powerful telescope and saw something that made his stomach drop. The alien ships were so big they blocked out the stars behind them. "How many did you count?" Jake asked his team. "We stopped counting at 10,000, sir," replied Sergeant Bill Carter. "There might be more behind the first wave." On Mars, Commander Lisa Price was reading reports from Earth when her own sensors picked up the alien fleet. She had been expecting a quiet day of routine maintenance on the orbital station. Instead, she was looking at the largest military force anyone had ever seen. "Send a message to Earth," she told her communications officer. "Tell them we confirm the readings. The fleet is real and it's huge." Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Vextar was pleased with what he saw. The humans had a few small space stations and some tiny ships flying around their planet. Their technology looked like toys compared to his weapons. This would be the easiest conquest in the Empire's history. "Open a channel to the planet," he ordered. His voice was deep and threatening, like rocks falling down a mountain. "Let them hear the power of the Empire." The message reached Earth in seconds. Every radio, television, and computer on the planet received the same broadcast. The voice was translated into every human language by the alien computers. "Humans of Earth," the voice said. "You are now under the rule of the Zephyrian Empire. You have one of your time periods called days to surrender completely. Give us control of your planet, your resources, and your people. If you refuse, we will destroy every city, every town, and every living thing on your world. This is your only warning." Dr. Blake listened to the message with a straight face, but inside he was thinking fast. He had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. The public didn't know it, but Earth was not as helpless as it looked. President Carter spoke to the world's leaders through secure video calls. The president of China looked worried. The Prime Minister of Britain was already talking about evacuation plans. The president of Russia wanted to fight, even though everyone knew Earth's weapons couldn't hurt the alien ships. "We need time to think," President Carter told them. "Dr. Blake, what are our options?" Dr. Blake looked at his watch. "We have options, Madam President, but I need to make some phone calls first." On the moon, Jake Morrison was watching the alien fleet through his telescopes. The ships were getting closer, and he could see more details now. Each ship had hundreds of weapons pointed at Earth. The smallest ship in their fleet was bigger than anything humans had ever built. "Sir," said his radar operator. "They're moving into attack formation." Jake nodded. He had been a soldier for 20 years, and he had never seen odds this bad. But he also knew something the aliens didn't know. Earth had secrets. Lisa Price on Mars was thinking the same thing. She had been briefed on some of Earth's hidden projects when she got her command. She didn't know all the details, but she knew that things were not what they seemed. Commander Vextar was enjoying himself. He loved the moment when a new species realized they were defeated. Soon the humans would send messages begging for mercy. They would offer to serve the Empire in exchange for their lives. "It always happened the same way, sir," said his weapons officer. "Should we destroy one of their cities to show our power?" "Not yet," Vextar replied. "Let them think about it first. Fear makes them more obedient." But on Earth, Dr. Blake was not thinking about surrender. He was making phone calls to people in secret locations around the world. Each call was short and used code words that meant nothing to anyone listening. "The weather is changing," he would say, or "the garden needs attention." Each phrase told someone to start preparing systems that had been hidden for decades. President Carter watched the alien fleet on the big screen in the Situation Room. The ships looked unstoppable. Their weapons could probably destroy Earth's entire military in minutes. But she had been briefed on Project Guardian years ago when she became president. She knew Earth had one chance. "Dr. Blake," she said, "are you ready?" Blake nodded. "We've been ready for 50 years, Madam President. But the aliens don't know that." The Zephyrian fleet continued moving toward Earth. Commander Vextar was already planning which cities to destroy first. He wanted to make a good example that would terrify any other species thinking about resisting the Empire. He had no idea that deep underground, in hidden facilities around the world, machines that looked like magic were starting to wake up. The real defense of Earth was about to begin, and it would be nothing like what the aliens expected. Dr. Blake walked through the underground tunnels beneath Colorado, his footsteps echoing off the metal walls. These tunnels had been built in secret over 30 years ago. Most people thought they were just emergency bunkers for the government. They were wrong. The elevator took him down 500 feet below ground. When the doors opened, he stepped into a room full of machines that looked like they came from science fiction movies. Blue lights pulsed along curved walls, and strange symbols glowed on screens that seemed to float in the air. "Good morning, Dr. Blake," said Captain Steve Johnson. Steve had been working in this facility for 10 years, but he still felt amazed every time he saw the technology. "The quantum generators are responding well. We'll be ready in 6 hours." In Australia, Major Kate Williams was doing the same thing. Her facility was hidden under what people thought was a mining operation. The machines here were even stranger than the ones in Colorado. They seemed to bend space around them, making the air shimmer like heat waves. "The dimensional arrays are online," she reported to Dr. Blake through a secure channel. "We're getting good readings from all 36 nodes. Similar facilities were hidden all over the world. One was under a fake geothermal plant in Iceland. Another was disguised as a water treatment center in Brazil. Each facility had technology that human science said was impossible. But the technology was real and it worked." General Frank Davis stood in the main command center, looking at a map that showed all the hidden facilities. Red dots were turning green as each location reported ready status. Frank was 70 years old now, and he had spent most of his life keeping Earth's biggest secret. "Tell me about the architects again," said his assistant, Colonel Nancy White. She was new to the project and still learning about Earth's hidden history. Frank smiled, remembering the day that changed everything. "It was 52 years ago. I was just a young captain then, stationed at a radar base in Alaska. We picked up something strange on our scopes. A ship, but not like anything we'd ever seen. The ship had landed in a remote valley. Frank and his team had been the first humans to meet the architects. They were tall, thin creatures with silver skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. They didn't look scary at all. "We come from far away," the lead architect had said. Their voices sounded like music. "We explore the galaxy, learning about new species. Your people show great promise." The architects had studied humanity for 3 months. They watched human cities, read human books, and talked to human scientists. What they learned made them excited. "You are young," the architect leader had told Frank, "but you think in ways that surprise us. You solve problems differently than other species. This makes you special." But the architects had also brought a warning. The Zephyrian Empire grows larger every year. They conquer worlds and make slaves of all who live there. They will come to your world someday. When they do, you must be ready. Before leaving, the architects had given humanity a gift. They shared the blueprints for technology that could defend Earth. But they also gave a condition. "This knowledge must stay secret," they had said. "If the Empire learns you have it before you're ready, they will send a larger fleet. Build quietly. Prepare in darkness. When the time comes, you will know what to do." Frank had spent his entire career following those instructions. The secret facilities were built slowly, one piece at a time. Only a few hundred people in the whole world knew the truth. Even most world leaders didn't know about the architect technology. The machines were incredible. They could bend space and time, making things disappear and reappear somewhere else. They could create fields that stopped energy weapons from working. They could even make entire fleets of ships vanish into parallel dimensions. But why did the architects help us? Nancy asked. Frank looked at the displays showing the alien fleet getting closer to Earth. They said we reminded them of themselves when they were young. They had fought the Empire once and won, but it cost them greatly. They wanted to give us a better chance. In Nevada, the underground complex was humming with power. The quantum field generators were the size of city blocks, but they made almost no sound. Captain Steve Johnson watched his technicians make final adjustments to systems that could rip holes in reality. Field strength is at 90%, reported his chief engineer, Lisa Park. We'll have full power in 2 hours. The technology was so advanced that even after 50 years, humans only understood how to use it, not how it actually worked. The architects had tried to explain it, but human science wasn't ready for concepts like dimensional folding and quantum displacement. Think of it like this. An architect had told Frank long ago, "Your weapons shoot bullets through the air. Our weapons shoot reality itself. When you master this technology, you won't fight enemies. You'll simply move them somewhere else." Major Kate Williams in Australia was watching similar readings. Her dimensional arrays could open doorways to places that didn't exist in normal space. The Zephyrian ships could be pushed through these doorways, trapping them in empty dimensions where they would drift forever. "All nodes are synchronized," she reported. "We're tracking the alien fleet with perfect accuracy." Dr. Blake felt proud and scared at the same time. Humanity had kept the secret for over 50 years. They had built the defensive network while the world worried about normal problems like wars and economics. Now it was time to see if their work would save the planet. President Carter was in the Situation Room, watching the alien fleet on the big screen. She knew about the architect technology, but she had never seen it in action. Nobody alive had, because it had never been used for real. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked Dr. Blake. Blake nodded. "The architect's technology has never failed in our tests, but this will be the first time we use it against a real enemy." General Davis looked at his watch. The alien fleet would reach Earth orbit in 8 hours. By then, every hidden facility would be ready. The quantum generators would be fully charged. The dimensional arrays would be locked onto their targets. 50 years of preparation, he said quietly. 50 years of keeping the secret. Now we find out if it was worth it. Commander Vextar had no idea what was waiting for him. His fleet was approaching what looked like a helpless planet with primitive technology. He expected an easy victory that would add another world to the Empire. But deep under the Earth's surface, machines built with knowledge from the stars were preparing to teach the Empire a lesson they would never forget. Captain Dan Miller strapped himself into the pilot seat of his spacecraft and tried not to think about what would happen in the next few hours. His ship looked impressive from the outside, with sleek metal hull and powerful engines. But Dan knew the truth. His ship was basically a flying coffin designed to fool aliens. "Thunder Squadron, this is base control," came the voice through his radio. "Remember, your job is to look brave and die heroically. The whole world is watching." Dan laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Copy that, Control. We're ready to put on a good show." Around Earth, 12 ships just like Dan's were preparing to launch. The pilots were all volunteers who knew they were flying to their deaths. Their ships were built to look like humanity's best weapons, but they were really just elaborate props in a giant magic trick. Commander Amy Foster was in the ship next to Dan's. She had been a test pilot before volunteering for this mission. "You know what's funny?" she said over the radio. "My ship actually has real weapons. They just won't do anything to those alien monsters." The human ships launched from secret bases around the world. To anyone watching, it looked like Earth was sending its finest military spacecraft to defend the planet. News cameras filmed the launch, and people around the world watched their heroes fly toward certain death. But in the underground command centers, Dr. Blake and his team were watching something else entirely. Their real defenses were invisible to every sensor the aliens had. The quantum field generators were fully charged now, surrounding Earth with power that bent the laws of physics. Commander Vextar saw the human ships approaching his fleet and almost laughed out loud. 12 tiny ships against 12,000 massive warships. The humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "Look at their technology," he said to his officers. "Metal hulls and chemical rockets. We stopped using such primitive methods 10,000 years ago." The human ships spread out in what looked like an attack formation. Dan Miller could see the alien fleet through his cockpit window now. Each enemy ship was bigger than Earth's largest buildings. Their weapons could probably destroy his entire squadron with a single shot. "This is Thunder Leader," Dan said into his radio. "Beginning our attack run. It's been an honor flying with you all." The human ships fired their weapons at the alien fleet. Missiles and energy beams shot toward the massive enemy vessels. The weapons were real, but they might as well have been throwing rocks at mountains. Vextar watched the human attack with amusement. The primitive weapons bounced off his ship's shields like raindrops. "Destroy them," he ordered casually, "but make it look impressive for their planet to see." The alien weapons fired back. Beams of energy that could melt steel reached out and touched the human ships. Dan Miller's ship exploded in a ball of fire. Amy Foster's ship broke apart like a toy. Within 30 seconds, all 12 human spacecraft were gone. On Earth, people watched their heroes die on television. Many people cried. Some prayed. Others got angry. But they all believed the same thing. Earth's military had just been destroyed, and now the planet was defenseless. In the underground command centers, Dr. Blake watched the destruction with a heavy heart. Those pilots had been brave people who died to sell the deception. But their sacrifice was working. The aliens thought they had just defeated Earth's best defenses. Phase 1 complete, he reported to President Carter. The enemy believes we're helpless now. Commander Vextar felt satisfied as he watched the human ships burn. "That was easier than I expected," he told his officers. "Prepare to move into orbit around their planet. We'll destroy a few cities to make sure they understand who's in charge now." The massive alien fleet began moving toward Earth. Their ships blocked out the stars as they approached. On the planet below, people looked up at the sky and saw death coming for them. But something strange was happening that the aliens couldn't detect. The quantum field generators hidden around Earth were creating invisible barriers in space. The dimensional arrays were opening doorways to places that didn't exist in normal reality. Major Kate Williams watched her instruments in the Australian facility. "Dimensional locks are in place," she reported. "The aliens are flying right into our trap." Captain Steve Johnson in Colorado saw similar readings. "Quantum fields are stable and focused. We have them completely surrounded, and they don't even know it." The alien fleet continued toward Earth, moving through invisible fields of energy that were more powerful than anything in the known universe. Each alien ship was now trapped in a bubble of altered space-time, but their instruments couldn't detect what was happening to them. Vextar selected his first targets on Earth. He would destroy New York, London, and Tokyo to show the humans what happened to species that resisted the Empire. After that, the surviving humans would beg to surrender. "Charge the main weapons," he ordered. "Target the largest human cities. This planet needs to learn respect for Imperial power." Dr. Blake watched the alien fleet take position above Earth. Everything was going perfectly. The enemies were exactly where the architect technology needed them to be. The quantum generators had been building power for hours, and the dimensional arrays were locked onto every single alien ship. "All facilities report ready," he told President Carter. "We can activate the defense grid whenever you give the order." President Carter looked at the screens showing the alien fleet in orbit. 12,000 ships filled with creatures who wanted to enslave or kill every human on Earth. She thought about the brave pilots who had died to make this moment possible. "How long will it take?" she asked. "The process will be complete in less than 20 seconds, Dr. Blake replied. "Once we start, there's no stopping it. Every enemy ship will be removed from normal spacetime." The president took a deep breath. "Do it." Dr. Blake nodded to General Davis, who opened a secure channel to all the hidden facilities around the world. "All stations, this is Guardian Control. Execute Phase 2. Authorization code is Phoenix Rising. Repeat, Phoenix Rising." In facilities hidden beneath the Earth, machines that used the power of stars began to change reality itself. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn what happened when they threatened a species that had friends among the stars. Commander Vexitar was looking at Earth through his command screens, choosing which cities to destroy first when his weapons officer made a confused sound. "Sir, something strange is happening to our targeting systems. They can't seem to lock onto the planet properly." Vexitar frowned. That was impossible. His ships had the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but as he watched, his instruments began showing readings that made no sense at all. Commander Vexitar stared at his control screens in confusion. The readings made no sense. His ships were in orbit around Earth, but their instruments were showing impossible things. Space itself seemed to be bending around the human planet. "Fire the main weapons," he ordered, trying to ignore the strange readings. "Destroy the largest human city." His weapons officer pressed the firing controls. The massive energy cannons charged up and fired beams of destruction that could melt mountains. But something went wrong. Instead of hitting Earth, the energy beams simply disappeared into empty space. "Sir," said the weapons officer, his voice full of fear, "our shots are not reaching the target. They're vanishing somewhere between our ships and the planet." Deep underground in Colorado, Captain Steve Johnson watched his instruments with amazement. The quantum field generators were working perfectly. Every energy beam the aliens fired was being redirected into pocket dimensions where they would never hurt anyone. "Incredible," he said to his team. "The architect technology is catching their weapons fire and throwing it into nowhere. The aliens can shoot all day and never hit anything." In Australia, Major Kate Williams was seeing similar results. The dimensional arrays were creating invisible doorways around Earth. Any attack aimed at the planet was being sent through these doorways to empty places between the stars. "All weapon impacts are being displaced," she reported to command. "Earth is completely protected. The aliens can't touch us." Commander Vextar was getting angry now. He ordered his entire fleet to fire at once. Thousands of weapons shot beams of energy toward Earth. For a moment, space around the planet lit up like a star. But when the light faded, Earth was still there, completely undamaged. "This is impossible," Vextar snarled. "No species has technology that can stop our weapons. Check all systems for malfunctions." His engineers ran diagnostic tests on every weapon system in the fleet. Everything was working perfectly. The weapons were firing, but their energy was disappearing before it could reach the target. It was as if reality itself was protecting the human planet. Dr. Blake watched the alien attacks from his command center. On the screens, he could see thousands of energy beams hitting the invisible barriers around Earth and vanishing into other dimensions. The planet was safe inside a bubble of altered spacetime. "Phase 3 is working perfectly," he reported to President Carter. "Their weapons cannot harm us. Now we move to Phase 4. Captain Tony Walsh was watching from the lunar base through powerful telescopes. He could see the alien fleet firing again and again, but nothing was hitting Earth. The energy beams just disappeared like they were never there. "This is amazing," he said to his team. "The aliens must be going crazy trying to figure out what's happening." On the Zephyrian flagship, Vextar was indeed going crazy. In his long military career, he had conquered hundreds of worlds. No species had ever been able to stop Imperial weapons. But this primitive planet was somehow making his entire fleet look foolish. "Try moving closer," he ordered. "Maybe we're too far away for accurate targeting." The alien fleet moved closer to Earth. But as they did, something even stranger happened. Their ship's engines began working poorly. The space around Earth was not normal space anymore. It was filled with quantum fields that interfered with their propulsion systems. "Sir," reported his chief engineer, "our engines are losing power. The space around this planet is doing something to our ship systems." Commander Lisa Price on Mars was monitoring the alien fleet's movements. She could see their ships starting to move slowly and awkwardly, like they were flying through thick mud instead of empty space. "The quantum fields are affecting their propulsion," she reported to Earth. "Their ships are getting trapped in altered space-time. They can't maneuver properly anymore." This was exactly what the architects had promised would happen. Their technology didn't just protect Earth. It created a zone of controlled space-time that could trap enemy fleets. The aliens were like flies caught in a spiderweb that they couldn't see or understand. Vextar realized his fleet was in serious trouble. His ships couldn't hit their target, and now they couldn't move properly either. Whatever technology the humans were using, it was far beyond anything the Empire had ever encountered. "Send a message to Imperial Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements immediately. This planet has defenses we were not told about." But when his communications officer tried to send the message, he discovered another problem. The quantum fields around Earth were also interfering with their long-range communications. The message couldn't reach beyond the solar system. "Sir, our communications are being blocked. We cannot contact the Empire." Dr. Blake smiled when he heard that report. The architect technology was performing better than he had hoped. The alien fleet was now completely isolated from the rest of their empire. They couldn't attack Earth, they couldn't escape, and they couldn't call for help. Begin Phase 5, he told his team. It's time to end this. All around Earth, the hidden facilities began charging their most powerful systems. The dimensional displacement arrays were preparing to do something that would remove the alien threat permanently, not by destroying the ships, but by sending them somewhere they could never return from. Major Kate Williams watched her instruments as incredible amounts of power flowed through the dimensional arrays. Displacement fields are reaching maximum strength, she reported. We're ready for final phase. Captain Steve Johnson was seeing the same readings in Colorado. Quantum locks are stable on all 12,000 enemy vessels. We have them perfectly targeted. The process would take only seconds once it began. Every alien ship would be moved out of normal space-time into a parallel dimension. They would still exist, but in a place where they could never threaten anyone again. Commander Vextar felt his ship shaking as unknown forces pressed against its hull. His instruments were showing readings he had never seen before. Space around his fleet was becoming unstable, like it was getting ready to tear apart. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet. Prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. We need to retreat immediately. But when his ships tried to jump to hyperspace, nothing happened. The quantum fields around Earth were preventing them from entering the higher dimensions they needed for faster-than-light travel. They were trapped in normal space with a planet that controlled reality itself. For the first time in his career, Commander Vextar knew real fear. His mighty fleet was helpless against an enemy he couldn't understand or fight. The humans had seemed so primitive, but they possessed technology that made the Empire look like children playing with toys. "What are you?" he whispered, staring at the blue planet that had trapped his entire armada. On Earth, Dr. Blake looked at President Carter. "Ready for final activation, Madam President. One word from you, and the alien threat ends forever." The President looked at the screens showing 12,000 enemy ships trapped in humanity's invisible web. These creatures had come to enslave or destroy her species. Now they were about to learn what happened when they underestimated the ingenuity of humans and their friends among the stars. "Do it," she said. Dr. Blake pressed the final activation button. Around the world, machines built with knowledge from the stars reached full power. The quantum generators sent waves of energy through space that made reality itself bend and twist. The dimensional arrays opened doorways to places that existed outside normal space and time. "Displacement field active," reported Captain Steve Johnson from Colorado. "All alien vessels are locked in the quantum matrix." Commander Vextar felt his ship being pulled in directions that didn't exist. His instruments went crazy, showing readings that broke the laws of physics. Through his viewscreen, he could see space itself tearing open like fabric. "All ships, emergency power to engines," he shouted into his communicator. But it was too late. The human technology had trapped his entire fleet in a web of altered reality. The process took exactly 17 seconds. One by one, the 12,000 Zephyrian warships simply vanished from normal spacetime. They didn't explode or break apart. They just stopped existing in the same universe as Earth. Captain Tony Walsh watched through his telescope on the lunar base as the massive alien fleet disappeared, like it had never been there. "Incredible," he whispered. 12,000 ships, and now there's nothing but empty space. The alien ships still existed, but they were now floating in a parallel dimension where time moved differently and space followed different rules. They would drift there forever, unable to return to normal reality or contact their empire. Commander Vextar found himself in a place that hurt to look at. The stars were wrong colors, and space seemed to curve in impossible ways. His fleet was still with him, but they were alone in a universe that obeyed different laws of physics. "Where are we?" asked his second-in-command, his voice full of terror. "I don't know," Vextar replied, staring at the alien landscape around them. "But I don't think we're ever going home." On Earth, people around the world watched their television screens as reporters tried to explain what had happened. The massive alien fleet that had been threatening the planet was simply gone, vanished, disappeared without a trace. President Carter appeared on every television channel to address the world. She stood at a podium in the White House looking calm and confident. "My fellow humans," she began, "today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that we are not defenseless. For 50 years our species has been preparing for this day, working with friends from the stars who believed in our potential." She told the world about the architects and their gift of advanced technology. She explained how secret facilities had been built around the globe, hidden from public view but ready to defend humanity when the time came. "We did not seek this fight," President Carter continued. "But when our freedom was threatened, we were ready. The alien fleet that came to conquer us has been removed from our reality. They are not dead, but they can never threaten any world again." Dr. Blake stood in his command center, feeling proud and exhausted at the same time. 50 years of work had paid off in 17 seconds. Earth was safe, and the galaxy had learned something important about humanity. General Frank Davis, now retired, watched the president's speech from his home. He thought about the young captain he had been when he first met the architects. He had spent his entire career keeping their secret and preparing for this day. "We did it," he said to his wife. "We actually did it." The news of the alien fleet's defeat spread beyond Earth faster than anyone expected. The architects had been monitoring the situation from their distant home, and they sent messages to other species throughout the galaxy. The word spread quickly. The humans had faced the mighty Zephyrian Empire and won. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Emperor Thane received the news with disbelief. His greatest military commander and most powerful fleet had simply vanished while attacking a primitive world. No one could explain what had happened. "Send another fleet," he ordered his generals. A bigger one this time, but his generals looked at each other nervously. "Sir," one of them said carefully, "if the humans could make 12,000 ships disappear, what makes you think 24,000 ships would do better?" The Emperor had no answer for that question. Meanwhile, on worlds throughout the galaxy, species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrian Empire began to hope. If humans could defeat the Empire's fleet, maybe other species could fight back too. Commander Lisa Price was promoted to Admiral and given command of humanity's first interstellar exploration mission. Using architect technology, human ships could now travel between stars safely. Her first destination was the Zephyrian homeworld. When she arrived there 6 months later, she found chaos. The Empire was falling apart as conquered species rebelled against their masters. The news of the fleet's defeat had shattered the Empire's reputation for being unbeatable. "We come in peace," Admiral Price broadcast to the Zephyrian government. "But we also come with a warning. Earth is under our protection, and so are our allies. Any attempt to threaten peaceful worlds will face the same fate as your invasion fleet." The Zephyrian Emperor agreed to a peace treaty that same day. Back on Earth, the architect technology was slowly being shared with the public. Scientists around the world studied machines that could bend space and time. Engineers learned to build devices that seemed like magic. Dr. Blake became the head of a new organization called the Galactic Defense Initiative. His job was to help other species defend themselves against future threats. Earth was no longer hiding its advanced technology. "We learned something important," he said in a speech to the United Nations. "When good people work together and prepare for trouble, they can face any challenge. The aliens thought we were weak because we looked primitive. They didn't know that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones who let you underestimate them." 5 years after the invasion, Earth had become one of the most respected planets in the galaxy. Human ships explored distant stars, and human technology helped defend dozens of worlds from various threats. The Zephyrian Empire completely collapsed within 10 years. Without their reputation for military might, they couldn't hold their territory together. Former slave worlds declared independence and formed their own governments. Commander Vextar and his fleet were still trapped in their parallel dimension, but they were no longer the proud warriors of a mighty empire. They were prisoners in a strange universe, with nothing to do but think about the small blue planet that had defeated them so completely. Earth had learned to reach for the stars, but more importantly, the stars had learned to respect humanity. The species that called itself human had proven something that echoed through the galaxy for generations. Never judge a civilization by its appearance, because the greatest strength often comes from the most unexpected places. The message was clear to all who heard it. Humans might seem small and weak, but they possess something more dangerous than any weapon: the intelligence to make friends with the right allies, the wisdom to prepare for threats they hoped would never come, and the courage to defend what they believed in against impossible odds. In the years that followed, when young aliens asked their elders about the great human victory, they were always told the same thing. Remember what happened when someone tried to conquer Earth. Remember and never make the same mistake.